the American dream, but the dream I'm talking about is rooted in the Pledge of Allegiance. I got to confess to you, Mr. Speaker, I love coming here to say the Pledge of Allegiance. Whenever I'm privileged enough to be able to be on the House floor at 10 a.m. or 12, whenever we open, I always feel good about saying the Pledge of Allegiance. I teach it to my children, the Pledge of Allegiance. And my favorite part of it, and of course I love the whole thing, but my favorite part of it is when we say liberty and justice for all. I love that part of it. For all. Now see, the conservatives in this body, they like to talk about liberty, and then when they're talking about liberty, they're not talking about a woman's right to choose, because that's liberty. They're not talking about the freedom of worship to be Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Baha'i, no religion at all. They don't believe in that. They believe only one way to seek the divine, and they get more radical with it every single day. They don't believe in liberties like that. They don't believe in you should be able to say whatever you want to say. They don't necessarily believe in the liberties that I'm talking about. They believe in property rights. That's the liberty they talking about. They mean that you ought to be able to own as much as you want, and if you can buy the whole state of Texas, Oklahoma, or Minnesota, and you got the money for it, you ought to be able to do it. That's what they're talking about. They're talking about property. They're talking about, now I believe in property rights too. I'm a very firm believer that if you ought to own your home, you ought to own your business, you ought to be able to have some things that are yours in there, not for the government to control. I share that belief with them, not to the extreme they believe it, but I do believe that there is an important role for property rights, and I also believe that there's a right for personal liberties too, and they're not so hot about that. But it seems like they end the whole discussion after injustice for all. They're okay with the liberty part as long as it's property rights, but they're against the and justice for all, because it's the and justice, not or and justice. Justice has to do with treating people equally, all colors, all cultures, all faiths. Justice means that you marry who you want to marry in America. It's not the government's business. Justice means treating people with fairness. That's what it means. Justice in the economic sphere means that all of us have to share the burden of the expense of this great country of ours, and that none of us can reap all the goodies of being in America but don't have to pay anything when it comes to footing the bill. That's justice. But justice. Now, in this last part, in some ways is the best part. For all, for everyone. Last week we had some hearings in the Homeland Security Committee where one particular religious group was pointed out for persecution, actually. That was a sad day. For all, though. America's about for all. For everybody, all Americans, of whatever faith group, of whatever color, of whatever rural or urban, straight, gay, all of us. Liberty and justice for all. It ought to make you feel good. And when you think about liberty, this means you can do what you want to do. My conservative friends think it only means property, but it really means property or personal liberty. Justice means we treat people fairly in America. You got a right to a fair trial, even if you're accused of a crime.